All right, let's continue with 132 and continue talking about Unit 2, about Chapter 17. One thing I haven't really hit on and started to is talking about the Indian Wars. The way it works is simple. It's economics. Okay, shouldn't be, but it is. It's economics. This push westward is facilitated by obviously two things: this transcontinental railroad combined with the gold and the silver that's out west. And we're going to go ahead and push because we get the railroad where we do. We get it in Kansas City. We get it up north there. What we get is we get the installation of railhead depots, and so we get cattle drives from trails in the south, in Texas, in Oklahoma, and New Mexico that lead to railhead depots for slaughtering houses so that they can supply this huge East Coast civilization that we now have beyond the Mississippi with food. And that we can now take the cattle and move it north in bulk by these huge cattle drives, load it onto the trains and move it east. Means that cattle business is now booming. It's profitable. They want to spread out. Because they want to spread out, they're going to need more territory. With the push westward of civilization, the taming of the plains, the agribusiness, we're going to need more territory. With the spread east from the west, we're going to need more territory. That's already taken up by the Native Americans. You have to understand that Native Americans were given Indian country. We know it is Oklahoma, but they're given Indian country because it's largely of no use as far as the white men are concerned. That's why they're given Indian country. That's why they're going to take the Smoky Mountains. That's why they're going to take everything out here in east, push them where they're going to be out of the way and they can go ahead and prosper. They can prosper until we cross the Mississippi, and we want that territory too. And so we're going to work on pushing them in. We're going to work on boxing them in. You have to realize a couple of things. Andrew Jackson signed treaties and broke treaties. Every other president in this time period is going to have signed a series of treaties. One of the more famous ones is going to be the Fort Laramie Treaty. I think the Fort Laramie Treaty is interesting because it is going to give the Native Americans the Black Hills of South Dakota. It will give them the Black Hills of South Dakota for as long as the grass shall grow. That's a long time, and last time I checked, grass was still growing in the Black Hills of South Dakota, so they should still own it to a certain degree. Sometimes they do, but largely they don't, because we're going to have a couple things happen. The treaty is going to get broken. It's going to get broken thanks to a guy named George Armstrong Custer, who's going to be a general here eventually. But he is going to be on a scouting mission for the Army. And the idea here is to protect the Native Americans, to keep the white settlers off the land, to scout the area for a new military fort to control the flow of settlers into Indian land because they've been promised it. Unfortunately, he's going to discover gold. He's going to post and publish in the paper that he discovered gold. It's going to cross a huge influx of people, and it's going to create a war. That same war is going to end up being part of the Great Sioux War. The Great Sioux War is where General George Armstrong Custer and the 7th Cavalry are going to be pursuing what is perceived as a small war party of Sioux Indians, or Sioux Native Americans, pardon me, Sioux Indians. They're going to pursue them, have them cornered, and proceed to try to wipe them out, only to discover that actually they're not a small war party, that actually they've been lured into a trap. What they're going to end up having is the Battle of Little Bighorn. And what you're going to see is Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse and a few other chiefs are going to wipe out Custer and his branch of the 7th Cavalry. And what we hear is Custer's last stand. What he had intended for them is what happens to him. which is, well, I won't say it's karma for some of the things he's done, but it is. This is really one battle in a series of battles. You're going to see quite a few others in the Indian Wars. You're going to see some that are all out battles. You're going to see some that are not. Among the ones that are not, you hear about the Sand Creek Massacre. You hear about the Wounded Knee Massacre. You hear about Native Americans who are going to be driven to live on reservations to be kept by the government in a peaceful way, assured that they're going to be supplied, assured that they're going to have peaceful existence, that they're going to be given lands away from where they naturally inhabit. They're going to have to adjust to a new form of life. They're going to be forbidden to hunt. They're going to be forbidden to do anything in some cases but farm, and then not given the implements to farm, not given the ability to take care of their people. And so they're going to be starving and have no choice but to leave the reservation. Because they leave the reservation and arm themselves to hunt, they're going to be looked at as breaking the treaty and at war, and hunted down and killed. This is the Indian Wars. We see it go back and forth. We see a variety of treaties. We see treaties broken on a regular basis. We see the rise of the Indian Peace Commission, which is a movement by the government to settle the Native Americans peacefully and peaceably on places. The problem is every time that the government makes a treaty, whether it's good faith or bad faith, they end up breaking it, or they leave the care of the Native Americans to corrupt companies or corporations that are out for the dollar, that would rather shortchange the people and then blame it on Native Americans for breaking the treaty. It's important because what you see is eventually you're going to see two things happen. You're going to see what becomes Wovoka and the Ghost Dance movement, which is going to be that last rebellion, that last religious awakening of this group of people to try to drive away the white implements, and they're going to lose. What this does is it results in the movement that we know of as the Americanization, which is going to be part of the Dawes Severalty Act. And the Dawes Severalty Act is about breaking up the Native Americans. It's about carving up the reservations that they're on into smaller chunks. So rather than being the Navajo Nation, rather than being the Cherokee Nation, that they're smaller groups of people, easier to control, easier to contend with in such a way. And that by giving them a small chunk of the land, when traditionally Native Americans don't own the land, they figure they care for the land. This way you give them a small chunk to own, and we gradually make them more American, we make them more civilized, we enculturate them into white culture, and we drive out the elements that make them wild barbarians and all this, and the idea is to make them proper American citizens. But because they are Native American, they can never be considered American citizens. They're always considered a subject population or a conquered population. And so they're never going to earn the same rights. But this does become problematic as far as this goes on, because this Dawes Severalty Act about dividing up the property, about the Americanization, is going to be furthered on when we get to the Indian schools and things along that line. That's what will happen in this unit, but that's the beginning of it. So I'm going to cut you off here, and I will talk later on. Thank you.